Some biopics, but it's not really. I think it's only for this new edition is something that I've been wrong with. But I've been there this is something that I think to be
Okay. देखो मैं जूम कर रहा हूँ ओके ओके ओके
Yesterday only I met.
ठीक है ओके ओके
Well, I have started some very simple work. And taken up this one or two times. Studying so full-time education job. Like this selected.
I need to be thinking of. I love it. I'm always fine.
Yes.
I try hard.
And every time I see you, just every time.
That's all that I can only
I started reading your post on LinkedIn.
I'll tell you what happened. Men and women both have so I have never taken a break in my career.
Oh wow.
And they come and don't me ask for it. There are men who work because they don't for a long time, one of my colleagues was trying to automate and talk about it. But you know, you're completely
It's a work for that, like balance.
now you
I very I don't respond to
because of lighting, sir, the front light will be there.
Yes. Remember last year no problem. There is a new catch-up strategy. Yes. Number of I am not a very professional. She writes. This is a relaxed type of podcast. Otherwise, getting her out of work is not good.
Work is next week.
I'm recording. Okay. Sure, sir. Sure. Okay, sure, sir. Sure, sir.
One thing is very clear, who offers care? Very interesting times. One company, 4-5 days at least. So, not 3-5. Again, I'm not just simplified. I already checked. This is always so I got the so-called I can come on, but I just think if it's a too far, I still really take I moved there, but not till next.
How was it? Yeah. Right.
Hello?
काफी काम हुआ सर Two and a half years. बड़ा मजा है There was supposed to be a country market. That's how Chinese your retirement is right. So what is that?
Traditional culture, job, very traveling.
Okay. everybody comes for the first time.
Event second time.
So you see that act. Just Next year or two, that's the thing. Experience that I want. They can also you see a lot of those. It's always good to look inside our because we have to make serious problems. It's a shortage of some foreigners working here and there. In the service sector.
So he said that he
We have seen hotels, restaurants, even convenience shops. Nowadays, so many, particularly from China. So many Chinese people are coming from your son.
Sanjay used to be a student 10 years back, the
That's another great
we are good friends.
He's now started on his own.
Ajay is business. सुरेश के साथ अलग हो गया
अभी ऊपर focus है।
Yes. So where do you get to work, get to be there together?
My day is interesting. I don't have anything. For example, I have a gig worker. So this client which I have just only one hour. So I spent about 3 days so they have a place, larger place outside. So I spent 3 days with helping them in terms of
Yeah,
HR, their management, so how to build their own so 5 to 6 days I spent it. And I got to the consulting they had a project then there are
now getting more and more
companies they are all HR. Their whole plan was so I expect that they had 15 the third was they wanted I've also been so there I spent about half day per month. And of course, I used to also have this words with this doing what one to do terminal people. So that way so these are some 3-4 things that I interesting. I became interesting areas. What to proud myself, what to proud myself, what to proud myself. Enjoyed it.
Why the new transport system is also done by
I met Shubhu.
I met him when he had just initially started farming.
Very nice, good model. Please don't try big below. We'll be in touch. But so no one's getting up from here. Actually, sat down and too comfortable.
हाँ घुमा रहे हैं
So Rajamati here only you could tell us. It's here from the horse's mouth. Can you phone consultancy? Taking over. I think most people have.
Have you tried
the
It's okay. There's always a time for everything. Srilanka is also here, right? My goodness, too much of each other. We should have a beach, not too much of each other. Oh my God, so
Too much of HR, huh? Too much of HR from BFF.
Sri Lanka.
मेरे को कोई इशू नहीं है मेरे तो कंप्यूटर में देखने से प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है बोल रहा ओके अच्छा है तो अच्छा है इनका फोन आया ओके तो वो लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग कहाँ पे देखे यूट्यूब में ही ना
उनको बोला हाईएस्ट वेट का हमको लगता है
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be starting off in a couple of minutes. Request you all to please take your seats.
See this one table, nobody wanting to sit. Can I ask someone to move forward? Vivek Jain ji. Mohan also, if I can request, if we can ask. Yes, Shanta, thank you. Either. Do I need a mic? Okay. विनीत कौर जी, सिन्हा साहब थोड़ा आगे आ जाएंगे. नहीं? Okay. So, sorry about the slight delay in starting off. Very warm welcome to every one of you. We are really honored that you took time out on a very wet and gloomy day in Mumbai. Come and spend some time with us. Absolute honor. I know we worked with most of you in some capacity or the other. We have been extremely proud to be your partners. I think we couldn't have grown in these 28 years without actually partnering every one of you in this room. And over the years, we have been doing some thinking and some evolving, quite often with some of you. And one of the thoughts that in the recent past that we've been chasing is the future of work. Because that is something that's, if it's going to impact on the industry, it's going to impact on us too. And that is something that we've been researching, Murli especially. And that's what today's topic is all about. It's all about future of work and where we think some ideas from our side. We don't know for sure, but we have done some ideas around that. And then some questions that we want to pose to all of us here, capture all that and bring it back together to every one of you. We will start with the national anthem. We do this in TMI in every instance, so if you can all stand it, please. So I know most of you know something about us. Just want to take 3 minutes to share some perspective about us that a lot of you may not know about. Okay, I know you have been our customers for a while. So we just thought before we start Murali's talk, we will take 2 minutes to share a perspective about us. So the agenda for today is a very short 2-3 minutes about TMI and setting context of why future of work. We have captured some counterintuitive facts about the world and about India. What we believe could be the future of work in India and the future of human capital management. And then finally some interactions and discussions. We also want to share with you a little bit about where, given this context, where TMI is headed and take your help to think through some part of it. Sharing a little more about TMI, which you may or may not know. I know you know that there are 3 companies, 6 branches. We have about 600 full-time and flexi-time workers now, about 330 odd full-time workers, and we have a lot of work from home. So that the gig economy and all those, we have already gone in there and brought in a lot of part-time people. We have over 5,000 hours of classroom content developed, over 6,000 e-learning hours. Some of what we do impact millions of learners. These are the 4 P's that we have integrated with our own ecosystem. In terms of people, we also have, other than our FTEs and flexi staff, we have a lot of freelance assessors and freelance trainers who work on a daily rate or on a monthly rate with us. We have about 556 sourcing partners, thanks to working with some of you for hiring. We've been able to do a consortium of them. We also partner originally Bernard Holders, which put in the first job board in the world, and they're also the world's largest employer branding agency. We're still partners with them. Of course, they've been acquired twice over. In terms of place, we've largely outsourced model. With some of you, I think, with Access, with PruLife, some of you are aware of us, RBL Bank, where we do it in hotels or we do it in campuses, so we are partners out there. We're building products around productivity, capacity building, and analytics. These are the 3 areas that we are looking to head out in the future. One of the triggers for our future of work has been this. We realize we have a huge number of connects every year because we are in the whole talent chain, right from advertising to acquiring talent to onboarding them, induction training, e-learning, assessments, and exit. Since we are in the whole chain of HR, we have a very conservative estimate over 500,000 connects a year, perhaps even more. And we have conversations around recruitment with candidates or onboarding. For some of you, like in BSLI, we do a 30, 60, 90-day calling to see whether they've settled down. Performance data with Access, we do a lot of analytics around monthly performance data of 50,000 plus salespeople. We look at attrition data, and of course we have a lot of training and learning conversations, not just with corporate India. To give you a context, we work with Anganwadi workers in India. We have over 1 million learners learning from a blended learning app that we have created, mobile learning, and then there are classroom intervention. Potentially 1.4 million learners will be on it soon. With the World Bank, we do something on public procurement. There are about 250,000 learners globally, and about 40,000 of them have been certified. So we've been partners for the last 7 years. So we also have a lot of training and learning conversations with many people. So around anecdotal data, unstructured data, quite a lot of it is structured whenever customers give back performance data or selection data or attrition data with us. Using all this and some of the thoughts that we had around where is India heading, where is future of work heading for the world as well as for India is the session that Murali is going to do now. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
You have a clicker?
Whenever I see the national anthem, something happens to me. I don't know what to say, but we're a country of great diversity. And why this story has come is because until 28 years of our journey in TMI, the first 18 years were largely B2B company. So we work with corporates, life was very peaceful, I was a very happy man. Sometime in 2010, 11, NSDC and we partnered for skill development. That has been a transformation thing for me personally because I tend to travel a lot and meet a variety of people. So today's main topic is not about future of work in corporations. I think many of you know better than me. I'm not an expert in that, but I'm going to raise a few questions at the end for us to think about. But it's all about balancing future of work in corporates, future of work for millions of Indians in India. So part of this presentation is to bring some reality check into all of us in this room. Wherever I've spoken in CEO class, in various forums, people have always told me, oh, I didn't know this. So my only request to you is to look at some of the data and make up your own mind as to where are we going as a country, where are we going as a company, and these two marry, how to balance these two is subject of today's conversation. Obviously, we have done, so I've been working on it for the last 2 years, reading a lot about research reports, etc., etc. But some of the interesting data which I'm presenting today has come from McKinsey, it's come from big consulting groups. But recently as a few months ago, World Economic Forum published something on future of work in India. So some of the data has also come in from that particular data. So it's very contemporary in terms of what you're going to see. So, most important thing, this is the interesting slide, which I think many of these companies you will recognize very easily. How companies sometimes don't recognize the next wave. That's the storyline, right? Here if you see Motorola, IBM, GM for example, was considered when we were in colleges, GM was considered the ultimate company to work for. But today, you know where they are. Motorola, Nokia is another classic case of they missed a wave. Sometimes companies become very successful in one generation of ecosystem, cannot survive the next generation because they're overconfident, they think they know the world, right? So every one of these companies, and this is a very interesting case of Yahoo, I think many of you may be knowing, Yahoo had an option to buy out Google and Facebook at some point of time. They had the money, they had an offer on the table, and they didn't realize how important the internet revolution was going to take. So the purpose of telling you this slide was primarily that sometimes same thing happened to TMI. So I've been asking myself, we've been there for 20 years, who cares? At the end of the day, are you relevant for the next 20 years is the question. So in the last slide when we talk about TMI restructuring, some of the triggering points have come from my reading about these big companies and how successful they were and how they failed at some point of time to recognize. So one of the big waves which I'm recommending for you to think about is the entire future of work in terms of demographics and automation as a combination. Automation and AI, everybody understands. I don't think it requires much of my intervention to tell you about AI. Though it's still very infancy, I still have strong views about its relevance in India, but we'll talk about it as we go along. Now, this is something which many people again did not know when I did that first research, that about in advanced economies, especially US, only 6% of the new jobs which opened up in that period came in permanent full-time jobs, right? So, normally people say full-time jobs, when you talk about employment, when you talk about recruitment, it's always about full-time jobs, only 6%. And this research shows that by 2030, only 9% of the entire workforce will be full-time permanent FTE, what we call full-time executive. This is a very interesting development, and even in innovation, P&G did innovation for a 5-year period. They said 50% of the innovation happened outside. They stopped. Earlier, normally most of the companies believe innovation must happen controlled from inside, largely managed from inside. But this is the first time we're realizing that external knowledge networks, external talent networks are very critical. And of course, this everybody knows, non-standard forms. We'll talk a little more about it later on. What are the various non-standard forms of employment? Now, this is what is happening in the US, but if you look at India, we have to balance this with some intuitive, counterintuitive data about India. Some of them are a little bit scary, but I must tell you this because in all fairness, as a researcher, my job is to put the spotlight on the issue, and I may not know the answers. First is about economic data. I think in the recent budget, the finance minister talks about $5 trillion economy, $7 trillion economy, and everybody is now talking about it. We already have a plan to become a $10 trillion economy in 2030. Very good. Poverty rate, according to the latest dimensional index of poverty, has dropped significantly from India from 55% to 28%. 271 million people moved out of poverty. So good news, happy news. But let's look at the bottom two lines. 364 million people, out of which 156 million are very poor. 50% of world's poor children are in India. We are the largest poor country, even after all these people moving out. So we as organizations exist in the context of society, and this is the one data which I would like you to do. But the last data is also very interesting. I don't know how many of you know, India's fertility rates have dropped lower than in the urban areas, especially dropped lower than the replacement rate. 2.1 is the replacement rate. Urban areas are almost at 1.8. 60% has been the drop, but single most factor for that reduction has been not Sanjay Gandhi, but primarily because of economics. India is an economic society. Anything which makes economic sense, we follow. One good example is all smoking and penalties of smoking. How we have changed in a very short while. I would have never believed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when people told me Indians are very difficult to control when they smoke. But today nobody smokes because the economics drive of behavior. Now let's go to the job shortage. I think this is the point everybody is understanding. How big is this problem? And I want you to understand this data is not available easily in public domain. It's all confusing data is available. But broadly 15 million people enter, or the net increase in what is called the workforce. When you say workforce, it's 15 to 65. And this workforce, there are more people entering. I think 25, 26 million people enter the age group. Some people leave because 65 will exit. So net 15 million people are aged, and 5 million people are entering from agriculture to non-agriculture. So we are looking at 20 million people coming in. And how many jobs have we created? 5 to 6 million. Imagine this has been the story from 2000 to 2018 year period. If you take the average increase in workforce in India. And India, when you say workforce, it includes all kind of permanent worker, non-permanent worker, contract worker, self-employed worker, all are included. Even if the big pot did not increase beyond 5 to 6 million. So effectively what you are doing, there are 20 million people coming in, 5 million people are getting engaged meaningfully, 15 million people are added. The World Bank, according to their estimate, if India has to have sustainable, we need to go to a GDP rate of 18%. And now there's a lot of controversy about current 7% growth and 5% growth and so on. So I want you to get an understanding of the so-called historically everybody believed wealth distribution happens when we have a very successful economy. When GDP grows, money gets distributed, everybody is happy. This story has been told to us for a long time. But actually it is not true. When GDP grows and employment doesn't grow. Employment is the most legitimate form of distributing wealth. You look at IT companies, 40, 35, 40% of the total revenue when we going as salaries and employee benefits. Right? In service industries, the percentages are lower. But the point is, if a person does not get a job, there is no way you can distribute other than by dole, which is what the government is doing now. So this is the concern. Now the answer to the question, why is it so low? Why are we not producing enough jobs? The answer is what we call employment elasticity. Employment elasticity in the GDP is a percentage increase in employment as a percentage of GDP growth. You see this graph. It was 0.8, that means for every 1% growth in GDP, 0.8% was the growth in employment. Now we are around 0.2, and we are now very close to 0.2. Just come down further because the data is on 2009-11, now it's even falling. We recently took some data from Maharashtra, specifically the most successful employment state in the country, around 0.3 to 0.35. So what does it mean? It means that the polity and the government, they are not focusing on the right industries. These are the industries, this is the employment elasticity of various industries. If you see, manufacturing is only 0.09. So every 1% increase in growth will lead to only 0.09% in employment. Finance and real estate, thankfully, is much higher. So we need to, I've been telling wherever I meet the ministers, every ministry people, saying, for God's sake, please recognize that any GDP growth without employment cannot survive in this country. And if you want to do that, you have to support the right type of industry for expansion. Even today, with a mindset, large manufacturing companies should run up. Manufacturing is important. Make in India manufacturing. I believe they cannot lead to employment. It can lead to a lot of export of goods and services. Now, secondly, unemployment. There are, in the economic statistics, we talk about two things. How many people are looking for jobs and how many people are getting jobs after they are looking. Now look at this data. This is very scary data. This is recently when a lot of controversy that the government is not releasing the NSSO data recently. And this last two columns gives you an idea. This was in 11-12 and this is the total number of unemployment. Unemployment means people are looking for jobs. 5% of the people are not getting jobs. 13.1 are the urban female not getting jobs. It is tripled. You can see the data. Doubled and tripled. In just 5 years, 6 years. This is the latest NSSO survey. So here is the combination. 5 out of 6 young women today who are in this age group and 1 out of 2 young men in the same age group are not looking for jobs. They are either sit at home, they don't want to come to work. Now this is a very, very, very serious societal problem. 1/3, this is a very, very serious data. 1/3 of Indian youth between 15 and 29 are sitting at home. 1/3 means 150 million. 450 million is what your youth population is. Total population of youth is 450 million. 1/3 is sitting at home. Now this data, I want you to just park it for some time. On the other side, women, they are enrolling more in higher education. Again, there is a workforce participation, what we call LFPR, is falling dramatically. Worldwide is 49%, we are 29%. But the last one is also even in corporates. Again, the statistics last year is 50% dropout during the middle and middle level stage. So women, interestingly, they are not looking for jobs. They are entering workforce and leaving within 5 years to 7 years. Now, what does it mean in terms of corporate work structure? What does it mean in terms of product development? In fact, one of the classic cases of insurance industry. I keep asking myself, life insurance, the basis of life insurance selling is on economic or income security. If income is inconsistent, income is significantly inconsistent, why would I buy insurance policy? So that it could have a serious impact on the way we conceive our products in India. Now next part is about how much is the job loss impact going to be. There are many, many, many opinions and thoughts have come. In my mind, I like the McKinsey approach which says that 60% of all the jobs, the 30% component, activities are technically automatable, which means that your number of employees to do the same job will come down 16 to 30, 18% straight away. You're looking at 18, 20% reduction. On the other side, tech-enabled independent jobs, which is the gig workers now. This is the only statistic I saw, between 700,000 and 900,000 people in the last 3 years. And they are primarily coming because of Uber and all these things. There are classic examples of gig workers on Uber. Now this is another data which I want you to study carefully. This is again done by me and a professor from TSS. Basically about wages. People ask the question, why people are not working? There are so many jobs available. Why people are not taking the jobs? Now the answer is here. You see, in this period 1999 to 2011, the blue line talks about growth in wages, what is called nominal wage, what you pay. And this line talks about real wages, which is adjusted for inflation. When you adjust it for inflation over a 12-year period, the salary wages have been stagnant for workers. These are factory workers, they're not entry workers, factory workers. And 50% of the industries showed a decline in real wages in the same period. And managerial compensation went up in the same period between 150% and 480%. I mean, this is a very controversial statement to make, but the point is, somewhere we have sacrificed the welfare of some set of population because we have compensated them and the same amount of money or the total kitty has gone largely towards the managerial compensation. And today, this data also shows even employed, 18% of the people are still living in poverty, just because employment is available. So what's the point I'm making? Till now, I made only two important points. They're not creating in themselves. Even if you're creating jobs, they're not getting the right compensation. They're not sustainable. People migrate from poverty, especially in the last 10 years. I've traveled a lot to find out job fairs we conduct. People lose money when they migrate to jobs. And if we don't recognize this issue, what happens therefore? Reverse migration is happening. People come here, look for jobs, go to Manrega, whatever options available at home, don't available at home. Now, as a corporate, we need to ask ourselves, how much of this is true in our organizations? How much of the compensation of managerial workforce? I know managerial workforce has gone up because we hire people, and many of the salaries we have seen consistently growing in terms of hiring of CEOs and CXROs. So this is the background to India. What are the things that you said? Now let us look at very briefly, only one slide I want to show about the structure. But clearly the future of work, this is a very interesting done by a guy called Ross Dobson, and he's a speaker, motivational speaker. But he talks about disruption of work in three contexts. Connected work and automation, how is it going to change? And then talk about human capabilities changing in terms of expertise, creativity, and relationship. And therefore, because of these two combinations, structure of work itself is going to change. I'm not going to spend time on it because it's theoretical work. A lot of people have done it. You would have seen it somewhere else. But this captures one slide what we want to say, that there is going to be a disruption. There is going to be a new need for new skills and capabilities, and the structure of work itself will increase. And here we will talk more about it later on. Is about the work design, project-based workforce, week-based workforce. All of them are going to be, there will be more automation is the right word, of work itself is going to happen at a larger scale. I'm sure some of you maybe will recognize these jobs all disappeared at some point of time in the revolution, the railwayman. And this is a very drover. These guys used to drive cattle. If you see the movie Australia, it's a very interesting movie. This guy is a drover, and this is a lift attendant. And in the second page is, of course, you know, many of them are typesetters, etc. But this is an interesting job role. I don't know how many of you know. It's called a lector. This guy used to sit here and talk and entertain the population when they are doing repetitive, boring job. He used to tell stories, jokes, etc. It's called a lector. And this, of course, is the lighting of the lamp in the night time. So, which jobs are at risk? Again, I made it very simpler for us to debate more. And McKinsey's work, I think, has been really good. About 200 activities they have taken. They said 3 out of 8 activity groupings are at a serious risk of losing the job. And they've categorized it, saying out of this 3 out of 8 activities constitute 51% of economic activity. So, service industry, many of them are in, and there are 3 categories of jobs they're saying, which will be, first 3 are obvious: data collection, data processing, and structured physical work. These are all, but the last one is going to have a serious impact on AI. I know I am mentoring a person who is now in Novartis in the US. They're really exactly working on what we have been saying, Watson equivalent for medicine. So you go online, you go and put your problems, it gives you hypothesis, it develops hypothesis, crunches millions of data, reduces it to 3 or 4 hypotheses, gives you what diagnostic you need to do, go and get the diagnostic done, and then it comes back with a recommendation of what is likely to be a problem. And interestingly, when I spoke about group of doctors, all of them were very upset when I said doctor's job, GP job are in trouble. They said, how is it rule-based? I said, yes, this is rule-based. But what's the rule-based? You are only limited with the data of the patient that you meet. So we're all covered by our data set that we have. Whereas AI goes beyond data set. It's already, some of the analytics are showing 95%, 75% to 95% accuracy in terms of prediction of what the problem is. So, coming back, again, there are 2 routes of losses. One is basically based on the models are one is occupation-based analysis and task-based analysis. There is a ratio of 47% to 9% reduction in jobs. This is a wide variation. But I am going to go by mostly by McKinsey analysis at this point of time, and they are saying definitely 52% of the jobs have a potential. So we need to, as companies, ask ourselves what jobs can be automated, what cannot be automated, what happens to the people, what kind of skill sets we need to introduce for them. These jobs are not going to go, at least whatever little bit I know and what I have studied, creative jobs, influencing jobs. In fact, salespeople will continue to be important because in many other financial products and others, they still have a very critical role. Complex relationship management roles, bureaucrats, job requiring human interface, and non-repetitive, non-predictable jobs like project managers and architects. Why I put this is because many of us, at the individual level also, people come and ask me, what should I study? What kind of jobs I will get in 10 years from now? Many of the children ask this question. And even company employees are also worried. I think a lot of study research shows that many employees are concerned. What will happen to their job? What will happen to them? So this table is basically to give you some idea. But unfortunately, this recent study of WSF survey of 2018 shows that people in India still believe jobs will increase. Jobs will not decrease. This is done about 500 plus survey. They've done small, medium, and micro and large organizations. Still, they're all believing, majority of India. So I'm asking the question, how much are we realistic? Are we denial? Is the companies in denial? I don't know. We will take a poll later on about what you think. These are the 9 types of employee arrangements. Now, TMI, we've been experimenting on them. We work with full-time, part-time, flexi-time, on-site, offshore, work from home. All these categories of jobs are already existing in our company. But I quickly realized our HR team is not aligned. They still look at the whole universe as only permanent employees. At the best, staffing employees also have not got attention from HR. So the first thing we need to realize is HR roles have to go beyond full-time, on-site or off-site employees. Significantly, there's going to be change. But if you won't do that, then obviously your question is, how do you spend time? How do you rate yourself? How do you create an impact in this wide variety of groups of people? Now, as far as the business is concerned, there are 2 only questions. How would be the government's role? More and more I'm seeing, I think many of you may be aware, a few days ago, Andhra Pradesh government formed the rule that 70% of the jobs have to be local. And it includes private jobs. Historically, the government had taken a view that when I give you a favor, I'll give you land, I'll give you some benefit, then I can specify what kind of employees you need to hire. But now they're changing that policy. They are saying that if you come into my state to work, you need to do this. So I think there is going to be higher impact of the governments on us than ever before. And it also means that some of the questions about income security, etc., will impact some of the businesses that we are, even products in life, we have to start thinking what kind of products we want to have. As far as human capital management, I think only there are 5 major questions I want to ask all of you to think about. How do we predict the skill sets in demand? What are the upskilling challenges with existing workforce that we have? Who will take the ownership for it? Is it HR ownership, individual ownership, business continuity? If employee tenure are going to come down significantly, who will maintain the business continuity of the company? If project-based works are going to work in teams, what kind of compensation model? Do we need annual performance reviews? Do we need project-linked incentives? And also the 4th generation of workers. India, we are not seeing that. We are largely still driven by younger age population because of demographics. But I can see sometime in the future, some specialists will come in and higher older age group. And obviously, we also talked about the 9 types of employment. So this is almost the last slide. I want to say there are 5 things I believe, which is what I think as a thought process for HR. First, flexibility will be as important as efficiency. Historically, we believe productivity, efficiency, effectiveness are very important. I think flexibility will become very critical in companies to run. And the flexibility will come largely from external talent. The more we recognize that now, more we build a relationship with networks. And third is predictability. Historically, we've been asking questions like what happened, how it happened. We never asked the question, can I predict what will happen next? What next? So predictability, which is again linked to a lot of measurement and modeling, and I think, and lastly, big data. So I think some of these terminology, the buzzwords of the future, in my mind, this is where I think HR will have to lead the next few years from now. Ravi? Yeah, thank you. I hope I've not bored you enough. I'll ask Ravi to change the tone a little bit.
So, I also told you that we want some inputs and insights from you all because you are running very successful large organization, the HR piece of it, and TMI is in HR. So we've done some thinking as to where we should go and what we should be doing as your partners and as other businesses that we do. So we think we will be in four businesses. There's a third one which we are beyond the corporate. We work with governments, we work with World Bank and those and go around the world trying to make an impact at the societal level. So leaving aside, since this whole audience here is corporate, we plan to be in value-added staffing. We believe that, like how we have gone into multiple work arrangements, many of you are already there. And can we be a partner with entities like yours and do value-added staffing? Not just plain payrolling, where you pay us a small fee and then we put those people on, they quit and go. We get another set of people with 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, perhaps 1 ear, because that's what the specs are. Right? So more about value-added staffing, bringing visibility. Some of the CEOs that we have met, they talk about the grey workforce, the entire staffing workforce. They get an aggregated information about what's happened out of them. They don't get individual information like how well you know your own internal employees. You may not know them. Second piece of it is, despite all this, at least in the near future for the next few years, we know that our PO and hiring will be there. Increasingly consortium based, which we do for some of you, where we have a lot of small-time recruiting partners from small cities doing it. Perhaps just-in-time hiring for you, increasingly that's become a pressure on us. Earlier we used to have lots more lead time, now the lead times are less than a month. And large numbers within a month, maybe 300, 400 within a month. Perhaps manning solutions with turnaround times. In terms of learning sciences, a lot of blended learning which we are doing with some of you. But increasingly we believe what we are learning to do around the world as partners of large multilateral agencies, we should be able to bring it into India and for corporate capacity building. Perhaps learning as a service. We tried this out 5 years ago, nobody bit. They thought that wasn't making sense. Where we invest in everything and we do it as a service. Like if you have software as a service, perhaps learning as a service, right? And then finally, of course, Murali touched about it. That is an area that's of extreme interest to us. We have started investing time, effort and money in that. Think data-based HR analytics, where we're talking of not just actual data, but also data around that person. So it could be societal data, it could be boss data, it could be maybe competitive data, all sorts of data around that individual, so that you have a much better sense of his performance, and not just plain and simple, okay, this was his target, this is what he meant, here's all the aggregate of that group of people who are at 100% and above, or at 75 to 100, not stuff like that. We're able to drill down to a single individual and point him or her as to what's the gap, where is it that they can go, what can the boss do, things like that. And the other area is rack tagging performance. We do it internally, and whenever we have had performance level discussions with some of our clients, a lot of time gets spent on the green guys, right? Because all managers try and flog them for more, right? And perhaps the incremental that you'll get from the green guys may not be as much as if you can push the amber. If the amber goes up by a little, you'll get a lot more stretch out of that, and perhaps not waste time around the red. So we're trying to build a tool around rack tagging. We're working with an MBA school for this. We've done some experiments with VR glasses and games and things like that. And we want to take that all the way, right from recruiting to performance to, data around that person, and then rack tag this guy so that, and offer it as a tool for corporate, so that you're able to then work with the right set of people and not focus too much attention. I'm not saying forgo the green guy, of course, you don't want him to go to Amber, but things like that. So these are the focus practices that we are looking at. Some time ago we were only in the Middle East. Now our geographic spread has grown a lot. Singapore has become an area of interest for us. We work there extensively on the learning side. We're looking at Japan for exporting talent. Tomio-san is our advisor. He's here. He's ex-MD of Sharp in India, and he's a Indo-Japan Connect for a lot of organizations in India. And we are very serious about this as an opportunity, and TMI is going there. We're also looking west. Both these, if you see, the common thing that we are seeing is aging population where there are not enough youngsters coming into tough roles. It could be something as simple and silly as perhaps home caregivers to high-end tech guys. So that whole spectrum is what we are looking at. On the capacity building, we are investing heavily in Central Asia and Africa, because that's where large numbers of people like India exist, and there's a huge queue out there to learn from India. So that is something that we are investing in. We also realize there's a need for new structure. Quite a few of us know most of our leadership team. They're all over the table, and I've put up their names here. But we have gone and restructured ourselves as business units and delivery units. Two very clear groupings that we have done. Earlier last year, if some of you know us, we were as business unit heads who used to have the P&L for delivery. Now both of them carry P&L. We did this because working with every one of you, we are seeing sectors change dramatically month on month, quarter on quarter. So we needed a business focus. So today we have 9 business leaders from our side. Some of them are in this room. Each of them have got verticalized. But having said that, since we are also going into a lot of flexible staff, right? We, out of the nine types that we showed out there, we already have 7 of them working with us. And some of them are loosely coupled, some of them are very strongly coupled, some put in X number of hours a day, some are on 0 rating. That means there's no guarantee that they will produce anything. And those sort of models also. So we realized that we need delivery excellence and control by automation. If you go for flexibility, if you don't have that, so that's why we have by product line delivery unit heads, some of them are here. So we have 2 in a booth. So going forward, you will see 2 people, leaders from our side, engage with every one of you. So if it's the BSLI side, we have Peter and Shashi. If it's RBL Bank, there's Rajni and Peter. So if for every entity that we work with, every corporate that we work with, now we brought 2 in a booth. So that even if one of them slips up a little, the other one is there to take the, the stretch and run. And definitely this is a new vertical that we have started. And I think we've done some small experiments with 2 or 3 of you. I know with Axis we have done, with Axis Securities we have done. This is an area of real serious interest for us, where we want to be your partners to do deep dive into this and ensure that a lot of sense is made out of it. So that's it. That's where we're going. There is Murali is the chairman, of course. I'm the group CEO now, and Rajiv, some of you may have met. Rajiv, if you can stand up, please. So I don't know if many of you have met that. So Rajiv is I know some of you have met. He has all the delivery excellence from our side. He's also the CEO of CNK. We have these as leaders now. So there's Peter, and if you see, we have gone very, very specialized. Earlier, Peter was talking to multiple entities across sectors. Now he's going to focus on BFSI. He's also head of HR. Ramesh is on manufacturing. The entire ABG group here will know of him because he's worked at most of you in Hindalco and Ultratech and so on and so forth. Gurdeep used to be a staffing business head. He takes care of consumer auto retail. And that's the list. And 2 new people who have come in, Pranul and 3, Pranul, Sanjay and Mayank. They're all the outward looking of the new business areas that we have. I guess that's it, what we wanted to share with you. We wanted to now open the floor for some time. We will have a hard stop at 6, maybe even earlier, because I know it's been raining. And I want to ask all of you to try and do a poll. We want to do some poll. We want some sharing of perspectives. And what we want to do is, using this, we want to come and give back to you a paper, whatever we have captured out here today, to every one of you and others who have not been able to come in today. So the first ask of all of you, and please do that for us, is on your own phone you can do a poll. There's a small IP address out there. You have to click the clicker now. There are 4 questions we have asked on this IP address. If you can't read it from here, I think there's a sheet on your table also, which has this. If you can just go to that path, there's a small poll. We want to capture this information from you and play it back to you. Not that one. Okay. Yeah, please ignore this printout. printed out here on the table. We will see this finally. We just want to get a sense of what all of you think. Oh, you want that? Sorry. Not coming. It's come with the view. Yeah, maybe some have done. How do I? It's not duplicating the show. Can I pull the report straight from here? Is this tab visible, maybe? Is the some results have started coming. Everybody is done. So very quickly, so there are 4 questions that we asked. The first one, there are some more entries coming. I think we should wait. Some more are coming. Just refresh once. So I think the first is good news for us. Significant job loss. 33% say significant job loss will not happen. We grow, continue to hire. Almost 67% of people say that we'll continue to hire and there won't be significant job losses. Okay? Alright? There's some job loss growth that has already begun. If you have to go down, it's come down a little. So I think we have to wait. Some more people are still not finished. Yeah, okay, go down. I think everybody is done. Refreshing ones, okay. Yeah, go down. The next one. Second one, go down. Go down. The second question. Willful unemployment at entry levels. Don't make it so bad. Okay. We haven't encountered this as 46%. in some instances is a serious concern. So that's your question that you asked me, whether it's really true or women exiting the organization between junior and mid-level roles is not really a concern as 31%, is a concern but not a big issue is 31%. So it's about one-third. That it is becoming a concern and it's a serious concern. That is women exiting between junior and middle. And real wages have that's a typo, have grown in my organization along with nominal wages for the entry-level role. So 46%, almost half believe yes for some roles only, and real wages have grown yes for all roles. So significant number. So perhaps what you rightly said, Murali, is that a lot of that is manufacturing data, and we have very few manufacturing people here, right? Perhaps maybe 3 or 4 only who have a manufacturing contest. The rest of it is all service sector. So the service sector is, you really have real wages growth. And okay, yeah, you can come back to the presentation. Thank you for this quick poll. This will give us a sense to. So I wanted to, like I said, we wanted some inputs from all of you, and I wanted to take some specific inputs, and this time I'm going to ask directly some people in this room for their perspectives and then also gather everybody's. So this job losses due to increased automation, while it showed it's there but it's not something significant. Can I ask some of the board members in this room or MDs? So can we start with you, Mr. Agarwal from Motilal? So what do you think? Can we have a mic go around? I need a mic. You can take this also. I'm loud enough. So is this really a serious? He's the managing director of Motilal Oswal. So
Good evening, friends. I think I was quite stunned by the presentation that how serious is the job losses problem or how acute can it become. But we are managing a very growing organization. We started with 6 floors 7-8 years back, and now we are into 12 floors. And so clearly number of people are growing very rapidly. And one thing I saw in last 7-8 years of job is the low-end jobs, the ones which were actually 10 years back we tried to peons, drivers and a whole lot of support staff. They were part of our roles, and with a lot of difficulties we found another staffing agency to put them in. And now entire that lower end is gone into that staffing company. So that has been change I've seen in last this thing, and the verticality of some of the good jobs is quite massive in the sense that we are talking about average compensation would be say about 10-12 lakhs for say upper end managers, but the top end would be like few crores, and few crores means few millions also, like few $1 million like. So in good times people can get I mean these are things which in 90s I could have believed that a job seeker, a good manager can get 10-15 crores by way of salary, and it is the entitlement, and even at that level it is difficult to retain them. And these guys, they are not in good job. They should be exporting, because India, I don't think this government or whatever, this job creation is going to be a big problem, the kind of numbers you're talking about. So the exporting of the talents, and that's why we are biggest recipient of remittances. So really exporting the right kind of talent to Germany, Japan, wherever demography has gone below 1.5 and all, I think all Indians are going to be staffing there. So you can be a big conduit out there. Seriously, you can become very large, like Japan. So that should be, and something like that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rajan, can you add something to this? You can push the mic here, please.
Just a conclusion view. Murali, as much as we are talking about a large part of the population and poverty and all that, I think people in this room are grappling only with 10% of the total problem, right? And therefore, of the 10%, maybe 10% would be a problem. So you're really talking about 1% of the overall problem. My sense is, in your own presentation, there are two parts in it. One where we actually can play an active role, and the other where we can't. One where it's an activity beyond what we do for our living. So you're talking about CSR, you know? People are actively involved and trying to contribute. The other is what you do with your own organization. So I think it's in two parts in that sense. And how the future is evolving also has a deep impact on, when you're talking of skilling, for example, when you're talking about any of those, the problem that you saw in Andhra, the issue is not 70%, that's one part of the problem.
Is it really going to help India? Is it going to change things? Are we going to get more people ready to come into the workforce? Then these job losses can be overcome by these people who are newly skilled?
Okay, that's a whole set of questions.
I know. Because we want access quickly, all in one hour.
So let me quickly give you the sense from a typical philanthropic organization. Finally find sufficient money to lead a decent life. They can also aspire that their children do better than what they did. Like say a typical urban dweller, or let's say somebody who's not poor, but all the other classes like they aspire for. If that is made available, then I don't think they are looking for many of the other issues. And how do you do this? One, making sure that they build capacity. It could be formalized capacity which will help them get a job, like what we call skill development. It could be even, the person is specializing in agriculture, but growing cereals which take a huge amount of water and are finally dependent upon a minimum support price is no good. If they were able to look at bringing in, let's say, nurseries, drip irrigation, looking at horticulture, looking at vegetables, fruits which give a higher return, then they get money. And once money comes into the household, everything changes. In a period of 3 years, we have seen families which were earning 25 to 30,000 rupees a year. A typical small and marginal farmer, 25 to 30,000 because a single rain-fed crop and the usual debts and everything else. In 3 years' time, that family is willing to spend 25,000 rupees on education of children. This is in rural India. So that's
they will migrate them. They will add to this 5 million who are coming every year.
Good.
Because now they will want a job. They won't want to work the farm.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If they see that they can earn money in a respectable fashion, which takes care of the aspirations that they have, I don't think they necessarily do that. In fact, in some pockets now we are seeing the actual reverse migration, because now they realize that going and staying in a slum, in a city with all its concomitant issues is not worth it.
Right.
It's far better to go back, do farming and earn money in a respectable fashion.
Right. Can we have some HR perspectives, Sriram and Shubro, right? Give it here in this. About the job losses which may not be so big but I'm sure even in DFSI, a lot of customer self-service is happening, perhaps data entries, a lot of it is automated. You get scanned and put up the data. You don't probably need the millions that you needed perhaps for the same level of business years ago. So maybe those...
in terms of manpower every year, and all banks are putting out branches. So I think we are in a phase of transition. So to that extent, the answer is a bit confusing. But I think more than job losses, I think we certainly will see skill losses, which I think we've already started seeing. So I think you've kind of captured in one of the presentations that one of those skills that will certainly survive the next 10 years will be sales / relationship skills. So I think what would happen is probably not loss of jobs, but skills will have to get redone. So to the extent your operations people will move process. So in villages which probably couldn't because of technology. So the throughput also has gone up, thereby probably offsetting that loss that otherwise would have been seen.
Have you seen new roles coming up because of this, some change that has started?
Just I mentioned technology that
By customer base by say 1 million or 2 million. Today you are saying that can I move by 100 million. So when you want to move by 100 million, you obviously are talking about rapid expansion at a much lower cost.
Hence, this whole ecosystem is going to create partnerships, fintechs are going to work. So we see a lot of things, a lot of opportunities emerging at this space. And I'm really not seeing people losing job because of this. People are reskilling and sort of changing because somebody used to pass a check simply by noting down 9 things are right or not. A bot is doing it, but somebody is still checking it. And by our kind of technology, which where we are, I think we still have time to go. 5 years.
Some people moving into independent roles, is that existing in the BFSI sector?
Independent roles means?
As in, I work for myself as an extended arm of an organization.
Not seeing too much of that.
Like in transportation and other areas, except perhaps that
few might have gone to fintechs and others, yeah, but not really as much. But a lot of partners working with us. But the scale at which you can grow is much higher than what you would have thought earlier.
Can we have a contrarian view from Minik, the manufacturing side? Are there job losses and is there a challenge?
Can you pass the mic there?
So you already prejudged his position.
Yeah. He's prejudged.
Yeah.
Maybe there are no job losses.
It's a good hard to do here, but in India the story is very different. And just to give one example there, the report quotes about a Russian bank called Bank. It's the largest bank in Russia. 80% of its loan processing is done without human effort. And last year alone, they reduced 2,000 lawyers because all their documentation work they have sort of taken off human hands. So what I'm saying is, even in the communist so-called countries like Russia, the way they have moved ahead on this, and I'm talking of a 2018 report, I don't know what's the latest. So this was for my great doyens here from the financial services industry. Coming to manufacturing, and I think I'll, since you mentioned manufacturing, spent more than over 4 decades into this sectors across different companies, Indian multinational, etc. 2 trends I am seeing very, very clearly, and that applies to most of the other jobs also. The first is the whole nature of work itself. And I pride myself for being with one of the largest automobile sectors 40 years back. And one thing is, we had all people what we used to call as regular workmen. And today, it will not be getting.
We them to see why are they holding on and what has made them so successful. Simultaneously, Anita Bogle is also doing a study on women and why do they drop out of junior and middle. So one of the early reasons why people drop out is because their husbands have started doing very well. So, no, this is real. Okay, so people do step out because their husbands do extremely well. And that's probably the reason that they would rather live with their husbands in a plush apartment rather than wasting time trying to work hard in an organization. Personal sample size small. We've realized that we've taken a lot of people with engineering backgrounds and IIMs from tier 2 who come and work for us in HR. And strangely, they don't want to work as soon as their husbands start doing well. They want to migrate back to where their husbands are. So I think to some extent, because the income has started growing, people have started dropping out of workforce. But like I'm saying, my sample set is small. We'll wait for the IIM study to really tell us what's in store. Actually, others will have their own solutions.
So I think your assessment is probably directly correct because and the women getting back to workforce mobility. So in some sense, I think our data also would directly corroborate with what you have done.
See, in urban, this is the observation. But
It is
in
a
rural
quantum
areas,
data.
it's a little
Quantum data for you.
Yeah.
LFPR of women of the poorest section of the society is lower, it's falling faster. Not because husband is earning. I think the real data shows for poorest sections of women or people earning at the lower end of the society. Yeah, for them, the outsourcing cost of work at home has increased tremendously, which means they work home, etc. They find it not economically advantageous to work, earn that money, spend that money at home, and the net saving they make is not enough to make their day. This is the larger problem. Large number of women, because LFPR of women, I said 5 out of 6 women for the younger age group, non-educated, only 1 out of 6 is looking for a job. And
We can talk to many of them, they say that I'd rather put my money on the children, next generation, and invest in the children, or give them the company to make sure they get into higher education or whatever, right? So this is a serious worry to me, because what happens is, we work with a lot of SHG women, I'm sure all the banks have worked with SHG women. What is the larger investment SHG women make is on the children's education? And many of them put their money on children's education, engineering rather than nursing. Nursing is far more profitable for anyone to be today in this country than engineering. But because of social imaging, they put their money on engineering. So my point was, there is a lack of understanding of why women don't go beyond some level. At a skip, we did a lot of work for skip for more than 7 years after a second career internship program. Two interesting points I learned from that experience. But I asked the women, why do you want to work now? Your husband is, what are the came in Mercedes? She said, why do you want to work? He said, I want to work for two reasons. They come summary. One, in the breakfast table, my husband is talking about buying prices with me. I want to talk about economics. Because I've also graduated, I also worked in two companies. Some of the conversation I've never since I stopped working has been reduced to what are you doing for breakfast, what are you doing for this. So my conversation has to change. The second thing she said was, I want to buy ice cream for my son without asking my husband. So there the issue has changed completely into whether we need the money or not, into self-discovery and self-importance in the family system, which is what we like. So the complexity of why women don't work is much more complex than what we can learn. Depends on state to state, depends on urban, rural, depends on the education, education. So many variables.
Okay. Maybe we'll have one more perspective, maybe from Deepika. Yes. I know I had to point out to you on this topic.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this forum. I'm quite enjoying myself. So the two, three things that came to my mind as people were talking, and one is we run a very successful campus program at the IDFC First Bank, and we've hired close to about 650 to 700 people. We have no special criteria for adding diversity. I'm just being honest. We just go by merit. But I'm very happy to share that year after year, I see an increasing percentage of women joining us. So it started with 30% of our hires were women, 35%, women have gone above 40% over the last 3 years or so. And that's really, really encouraging. The other data point that we spoke about women, why they come to work, and the point that you made about men's income. I have a contrarian view. I think women are simply bored sitting at home. Really, they are. So so for example, if I may just start at the house help level, I have 3 different house help who come from various, and I overheard this conversation just about 2 days ago. It's very hot and sultry, and they said we enjoy coming, but we come to work. So I was like, it's so hot, it's so sultry. So they said they don't want to sit at home. They are not highly paid resources. They are very lowly paid resources. And they still want to come to work because they want to contribute to the family.
I think very little in the knowledge available about how compensation is structured for the non-managerial workforce. For example, skill development, we are part of NSDC. NSDC has appointed various sector councils, sector skill councils. Sector skill council give you job description, they give you KPO, knowledge, etc. But there is no specific compensation. Which is surprising because you talk about level 1 to level 10. How can you have a national policy or a standard for saying you must pass this, but I don't tell you what money you need to pay? There's a lot of resistance from them. When I asked NSDC, why are you not specifying compensation? The answer is employers don't like it. They want flexibility. They want to pay whatever they want. Right? So much so, one particular case, my telling is related to partnership also, related to the same issue. That in one case, we had 193 criteria for knowledge, skills and aptitude for a job role in the BFSI sector. And the qualification required for that particular job role was 8th class pass. It's a banking correspondent, later on became 10th. And the salary in those days, I don't know what it is now, 2,500 rupees or 5,000 rupees in salary. What I'm trying to tell you is that in this country there is a huge disconnect between the salary that you pay and the kind of skill set that you expect. Because like we have a 3P model or evaluation model for job evaluation, and based on which we have compensation for managerial workforce. It doesn't exist for non-managerial workforce. Historically, factories have been focusing on some kind of increment, chargeback, and so on categorization. So in my mind, the first challenge and compensation, why many of the young people don't want to work and why we have a big challenge of hiring young people, especially at the lower end of the spectrum, is because they believe they're underpaid. Significantly. But they think I don't want to put so much of effort to make so little money. It's their mindset, right? And there's a straight correlation between GDP growth and expectation. I said GDP does not devolve in terms of money they hand to the poor people. It doesn't go to poor people. The expectation goes up. This is the tragedy, that is the complex situation we are in. As the economic growth increases, we become more flashy, more people buy cars, more people become richer. The poor man doesn't want to increase his skill, but he wants more money. That's the drug that the country is stuck. So even for partners, when we hire, our tougher job also hiring. I've just hired a CEO for a company. It's a smooth cakewalk to hire a CEO. To hire one executive, very casa. It's a huge effort. So much of you have to do.
Even tougher than insurance sales.
Yeah, sure. I come to that. I think Himanshu, we need to have one more point, is that in financial services sector, I think 80% of the jobs are front-end sales jobs.
Yes.
So the demand is in sales, but the young graduate today don't want to sales because it's a tough job.
Absolutely.
Right? So there is a expectation mismatch and a supply mismatch, which is very, there are jobs, as you rightly said, all of us collectively together will have 40 sales jobs available, and increasingly, if more and more jobs are available, only the sales function. So in addition to embedding language in schooling, I think we need to also embed some form of relationship / selling kind of programs as vocational training into the curriculum, because that is only where most jobs are going to be. Your banking jobs are increasingly going to get automated. So to us, that I think also accentuates why it's extremely difficult to get people in private services.
The other thing is the focus on graduates in banking. We don't even take anybody who's 12 pass. The third thing is that you cannot outsource sales for liabilities. So you're forced to recruit all of these people in-house. Unlike the asset side of the book where you can outsource. The next thing is women don't want to do sales. And that's another area where I think women can happily be employed if they're willing to do sales roles. Everybody wants an ops or a service role. So there are challenges, but if you actually flip it to the rural sector, specifically in micro enterprises that have been created, because in the CSR side, I'm sure he'll have lots of them, I don't know, as a gentleman from Tata's, but if you look at Chetna Galasina's model, she's taken all the rural poor, even 8th standard pass, and made them all banking staff. And she never has a problem of attrition, because there are not too many choices. Of course, our graduates are spoiled for choices, and this will continue till the regulator decides that liability can also be outsourced to partners.
Choices, I disagree. Graduates today, will just come back. 6 million graduates are passing out in this country. We are not even creating 1 million jobs for graduates. That's the current scenario. So it's not for choices. They don't want to work. There are 3 categories we should say: employed, unemployed, partly employed. Both categories is called willingly unemployed. They don't want to work. End of story. So question is, whether jobs are available, not available is a secondary issue. But this problem is a problem they're going to face, whether we like it or not, is going to be there.
So this is a topic which is very close to my heart, and we've been debating this with multiple partners and multiple times. But and we can go on and on, but given that we don't have much time, but there are multiple factors at play, for which I think we don't have a fix on right now. So there is supply, but that supply is a mirage, because people are coming in but they don't want to join the workforce. 15 years of education does not make them employable. So there is enough investment in terms of skill development, and that's why the compensation is not only about the money that we put, but what we get in return for the first 6 months, 12 months, and what dollars invest in them. The problem is not specific to BFSI or banks and insurance. We did a huge study looking at where people go from banks to whatever they are. So that people go to Cafe Coffee Day and Chroma of the world and Nature's Hospital of the world. All of them are running at 60% plus attrition. And the precise reason why people leave over here, the reasons change over there. So I think across sectors at that level and that that scale level or that population group, I think we got to deal with this population who's confused about what their real career aspirations are. People go to NIT, spend a couple of lakhs for a course. On the day of tuition, they go to turn up saying that my marriage is fake now. I don't want to pursue we run this, program, most of the banks run this program with, Manipal Academy and stuff, where the competition entry point is significantly higher, There are people, who year after year, they prepare for banking exams 6 years in a row for RBI exams, don't get through, do not apply for these programs. Saying that, if I get through, then I'll go, otherwise, I'm happy preparing for a job. So I think, there are multiple issues at play here. I don't think elevating the competition point is alone going to solve the problem. And, there are, the cost and profitability dynamics over there, given that the skill level of these guys is, is not at a level that the industry expects them to be. I think it's a problem that everybody is facing.
Can we hear from the insurance two people here, Hussain and Prasad, and of course you from iGroup? Because I'm sure you have a deeper problem than what the banks have. It's a tougher job role. And sales guys, you have to increase your volume.
So, two observations that is about the input. One thing we have seen is that insurance level, people try to see the long term is very limited. So, the mode of giving up very early in the career that, they tried for about 6 months or 1 year and then probably lesser than that and give up. And they're pretty much okay sitting at home till the time the next job comes up. This is one thing that we have seen, and we have seen candidates also having a lot of gap in between their two jobs. Another thing that we have seen is that, especially when it comes to sales job, the attraction towards variable income or the confidence on the variable income is very, very limited. Everyone wanted a fixed compensation, and the discussion overall is how much is that going to pay me as a fixed CTC. When we say that the opportunity of earning at a variable side is large and you have this much opportunity of earning, the confidence of the youth on that seems to be very low. And everyone wanted to see that, what is the final amount that comes to me every month. So these are the two observations that we see. And this willful unemployment, I think it's a true fact. We have seen a lot of people who are saying, I don't have a job, but I still do not want to do sales. So
and definitely not insurance sales.
Of course.
But I think
we can maybe use this.
It's also and about the children when we're talking about, the parents don't want their children to go to sales. I think it's slightly different because when they go home, they're not really happy. So if you look at so many people doing engineering in this country, ultimately going and doing sales, what do parents want? I think the change has to also happen with the kind of expectations parents have.
You're absolutely right. We did a study with Access where we found if this was for sprinters and Casa sales guys and not poor performers who exited. We found in poor performers who exited 3 or 4 very clear demographic. Both parents graduate, don't touch them. One parent graduate also, don't touch them. Right? If both non-graduate, high chance they'll become a sprinter. If more than 2 older siblings, don't touch them because they're not going to take sales jobs, right? If there is an X amount of income in the family, don't touch them. So there are some very clear demographic parameters that come in.
If you add all those filters, the 15 million will come down to something much lesser.
Possibly that's the number why they're struggling. Yeah. So can we have also one from Vineet? Now we did about 1,000 numbers in the last 3 months with you, right? Which you hired for and you only trained. So you seem to be finding a way to get young people to come into this insurance sales.
So definitely it's a challenge. People, when we offer the sales profile to campuses and we do lateral hiring and again insurance frontline sales job. So what we tried differently and what worked out for us, we said it's no more a selection of we cannot be sitting on the table and saying this is what we have liked, we will hire or not. We said let's explain the job to them. Let's resell or demystify the entire industry and the proposition of being in sales. So we said this is what we do. This is what we can offer you. Would you like to evaluate? Would you like to do this? It is like making you aware about the possibilities and the kind of career progression he can have. Definitely, migration is a challenge. People, there are states which are high on supply side. And for them to migrate to bigger cities, the compensation definitely is the thing which is there on the mind. But what has worked with us is that when we go to campuses or when we meet people, we hold more of a career opportunity presentation telling them this is an extra effort we have to do. To tell them, look, this is the job, this is the industry. It is not only talking about going and selling a life insurance. It is about telling people the financial different solutions which we provide. So that's the shift which has started.
People motivate significant numbers.
Yeah, that is what.
But they don't. They should not attract. They should stay on. Some of these are on the rebound. Is this their second job?
This is this would be the first job.
First job.
Yeah, around 60% would be people whom we have from campus. And the 40% would be lateral, which will be the second job.
So a lot of hard work that you've done. Before I move to the last one piece of the non-BFSI side, can we have some different perspective from MMFSO? Whether in the financial services space, is it different from the bank and insurance? You can give the mic there to Ajit and Umar.
So what we've seen is we are predominantly in the rural spaces. And we are right now going deep into the entire 4 cities, etc. But what we have seen is, I kind of agree to the lady from Arjun, when we recruit people with lesser than graduate, 10th pass, etc. There are people who, 2 things, people who are ready to stick on with you and work for you. Second, they are more, you have trained some of them also. So they are also ready to learn from the trainings that you give and ready to apply that. So that level of
owning up that
responsibility is something that we are seeing.
Yes.
But that is when the leadership has finally taken a call to, go forward and hire such kind of people rather than looking at graduates, etc. And that has worked wonders for us. Also, one of the other things is that this is not basically from the topic that we are talking about, but from some of what you people are telling about how we are talking about now. We used to grow by 1 million and then 2 million, now we are going by 100 million. What we are seeing is, we are also seeing an outburst of entrepreneurs within our structure. I have multiple instances of where my employees are right now dealers of cars who is our partners. I have people who have left the employment, taken up one tractor, started renting out one tractor, and then started looking at renting out multiple tractors.
So 10,000 accounts are being opened by 1,000 people, 100 people are required.
It will take time for you to build the pipeline. It's not an overnight job. And maybe BFSI together needs to look at the sources of people. Second issue is what you ended with. I came into BFSI exactly 10 years back. I paid X salary to Y job. Manshu is my colleague now, the same job. He pays the same salary. He's not increased the salary for the last 10 years. So it's amazing. And there are people like us who are responsible for it. At the same point, that how do we really value the sales job? The price point has remained the same. So that's something we should start looking at. Third is also, is there a hiring and the pipeline problem, or is there an attrition problem? I don't think we ever face a problem of getting enough people. For every job we get 10 or 20 times people, but they move very fast. They reject us. And they reject us for various reasons. Some we can't control. Losing a person, as somebody was saying, to Swiggy, I can't help, because Swiggy is such a nice job. You choose your time, you choose your vehicle, you choose your company you work with, versus selling an account is difficult, definitely. However, are people rejecting you as a company and an industry? That's something we need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a much more complex issue. Not only that you don't have enough, but also that we are not doing enough by selling those jobs, or by valuing those jobs, or by making the brand of various sectors more attractive compared to others.
I think closing point is we should put a lot more premium on attitude than skills.
We must put a greater premium on attitude. Today, attitude assessment is very weak in most of the entry-level jobs. And skill is valued. Even the interview panel spend more time on English speaking and how much you're demonstrating this, right? So I think somewhere we need to put a premium on attitude. Why do I need the job? What am I going to do? What attitude I bring to the table, right? This something can change. One of the variables in compensation has to be my mind attitude. Sorry, when Vinay is from IPS and he has been in the government service, so all of us have vilified the government. The most highest paying people are in the government. What's been your experience? You've been in police. What's been your experience of constables? Have been very poorly paid for a long time.
Yes, I'll share my experience with the government, particularly with the police department. I think most of the points were made very clear by some of the speakers. Firstly, there is a general impression that government servants are less paid. It's not true. In fact, starting salary in most of the government jobs are very good as compared to corporate sector. In fact, a few years back, I was trying to compare, entry-level salary of a sub-inspector vis-a-vis, TCS, what TCS, Wipro, or any other, IT, offers to engineers. So our gross salary was definitely more than, you call it C2C, but our salary plus, the works which they get at house and other allowances, that was much higher. Not much higher, but that was much better than as compared to what TCS and Wipro and other IT companies were offering. Even the constable, the minimum qualification for constable is 12 standard in most of the states, including Maharashtra. The basic salary of the, I'm talking about the basic salary, is about 22,000 rupees per month. That is after the 7th pay commission. Plus you will get HRA. If it doesn't get a house, you will get HRA. Plus we get a, we call it weekly off compensation if he works for weekly off. Plus we get, we give them, refreshment allowance. So all these allowance, and one of the reasons, why people join government job is the job security. And I've also talked to somebody who left, Japanese company and joined the CIDCO. When I was in CIDCO, he was working under me. I asked him, why did you leave the job? He said, job security and government job, public sector job. So there is a status in the society for the, still even today, the status in the society. Therefore, you will see, even for constable's job, at some districts, people are preparing for 2-3 years. And for their physical test, they prepare 6 months, they work hard, and even for, nowadays there are so many coaching classes also in all the districts, coaching classes are there. For sub-inspector's job, people prepare for, years, 2 to 3 years, they keep on appearing for the exam every year, Maharashtra Public Service Commission examination, and what you call it selection ratio is in government jobs. UPSC, of course, for the civil service examination, about 5 lakh people appear for about 1,000 jobs, and same is the ratio for sub inspectors, etc. And for Mumbai city, when I was heading I was conducting recruitment for constables in Mumbai city. I still remember about 1 lakh candidates used to apply for about 1,600. The year 2-3 years I was head of the recruitment for Mumbai police. So this is the ratio, and it's not a recent phenomenon that people are joining the government servant. I still remember when I was a few years back when I was working as a deputy commissioner. I had an MSc chemistry from Mumbai University. I was working as a constable with me. I had an engineer. He must have joined as a sub-inspector early 90s from a good engineering college, and he preferred government job as compared to any other corporate sector job. In fact, when I joined the corporate sector, I was telling somebody, after campus I joined Bajaj Auto Limited from campus, and I did not like the culture, I did not like the whole atmosphere in the corporate sector, and I and my colleague, we were neighbors in, we stayed in D4. So one day he came to me, he said he has resigned from corporate job and he's writing civil services. So next day I also resigned. I said I will also write civil services.
Thank you so much. I think we want to wind up. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Last 15 years I've been in financial services. I have not seen productivity of frontline sales changing. 50% of workforce does not deliver. So we pay for 100 people, get delivery of 50 guys. So your salaries are actually double. This is a reality. It's just not talking about salaries going up. We need people who go to deliver. This is a big challenge with the industry is facing. So what do we do with this? This is the whole dynamics of the situation.
Yeah, actually, we are all paying for the bad guy. Everybody is paying for the bad guy who is not performing. But I would only request only one suggestion when we close this discussion. Competition is a serious issue. For some of them, it's life and death.
Productivity is the more serious issue.
Fair enough. But one reason why the government salaries are higher is because the decision on salary is fixed not by the business, by an independent body. Unfortunately,
I think in government, if the productivity is brought in, the story will be very different. You're talking about things, they're not same. It's very different system.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think your 2 points you made about 50% of the workforce not being productive and therefore other people are carrying the cost is a bigger issue. So we have to ask ourselves, why did it happen? What are you going to do to prevent the percentage is one question. But a bigger question, what I said was, how do we ask this question, that how do we bring in more fairness in the compensation and difficulty of job level? So thank you so much. The rains have stopped. I think all of you had 2 hours of body time inside. I hope you enjoyed, but I've been very personally grateful for all of you. Many of the faces here are known to me. Some of you have come from outside, others come from outside. Thank you so much. You made our day.
One request before you leave the table, there's one small questionnaire out there, a ranking of challenges. We want to bring it into the report. Sorry, I'll just use the Shubhru. There's one sheet out here. If you can just rank the points in it 1 to 10 and leave it back on the table. And also there is one small card here which you may choose to fill. Yeah, and the snacks are open on that side of the room. The left hand side of mine.
Is 1 the highest or 10 the highest?
Sorry? One is the most important or the most difficult challenge.
Descending order.
Descending order. We will use this in that report that we are making for all of you. Tough? Complicated? So, even if you don't put all 10, put at least top 3. That will help.
इवेंट खत्म हो गया
Exactly, yes. Census one. Yes, I know that. Particularly in that language. I know several people engaged in teaching here. Yeah.
From one item to another. Yeah, what is wrong with you? One more. You will be the one.
पता है लाइव नहीं चल रहा है, स्टॉप करने और ये पता नहीं वो उसको पता नहीं, किसी ने भी देखना छोड़ दिया। सामने नहीं दिख रहा, खाने के लिए चला गया होगा। अरे सभी यहीं पे है, जो चला गया वो चला गया, खाने के लिए जाना। अभी दिखे थे, बाहर निकल गए। बोलो सुन रहा हूँ. ऑलरेडी बोल दिया.